Today, we kind of wanted to talk about, the market for agents right now is really difficult, right? And for
Sure.
everyone. And so how to get 5 to 10 extra listings a year in this market means more than in prior, 2 years ago. That was an easy thing to do. Now that's really, really difficult. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how to get 5 to 10 more listings in a year using the Global Marketing Agent platform. So talk to me about what that means to you and, how does somebody even go about that?
Sure. So there are actually several ways. So obviously, the whole thing about getting listings is being having a different value proposition than your competitors locally.
Right.
And I know that personally from different brands, different brokerages, global, local, independent. To me, a listing presentation sounds the same to all. I know that some agents will disagree with me, but it's okay. And it's at the end of the day,
It's
yeah,
the same PDFs. They all say the
yeah,
same thing. You're
all
all
do.
using the same systems. So
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
same. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is the same. And so at the end of the day, it's the amount of subscribers on YouTube or followers you have on Instagram. So
Mm-hmm.
and so with Global Marketing Agent, we've first of all we've been around since 2006, and so we've trained over 8,500 agents into this kind of concept. And so there are different ways to get more listings. The number one way, the easiest way, is to once you're a Global Marketing Agent, you have the ability to access not only our training but our technology platform that will allow you to legally, and I want to say this again, legally borrow listings from other members with different fee structures. And that's the key to where those listings actually are yours because you are involved in the transaction. If you either bring the buyer to the table, which obviously that's the buyer's side, which is easy to do, but you as the middle person, as the what we call the co-marketer or the co-promoter, you now have the opportunity to go and market this listing with your name, with your phone number, with your email address to your sphere of influence, to your, I mean, even you can have the authorization to put that in your MLS if you want to, if your MLS allows to. I know a lot of agents are not familiar with this, but most MLSs in the country now, and even in Canada, will allow their agents to put listings that are outside of their areas. Usually that's under out of area or others. Now you've got some very forward MLSs like Miami, Houston, Dallas, and a few others, Los Angeles, Toronto, that are very forward to where they actually do with different countries. And so, that's a thing that 10 years ago, well, actually it existed, but barely. And you're just going to see it more and more in today's real estate world that we're in and that we're going to be into. And so that's the number one, and that's the easiest way. It's to be a global marketing agent, have access to our technology platform that allows you to look at a world map and go, okay, where do I want a listing? Do I want in Mexico? Do I want one in Arizona? Do I want in Dallas? Do I want in France? And from there, again, it's going to tell you from the start, before you start marketing any of these properties, how much you're going to get paid in the scenarios that can happen. Scenario number one, you start marketing the property and you find a buyer yourself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a little bit harder than this one. And this one means that you're going to market it to your sphere of influence, and you're going to have another real estate agent in your sphere of influence or in your office or in your company as a whole that will call you and say, hey, Ashley, I may have a buyer for this property. It's an investor, or they wanted this or that. And so that's the number one way, is to how to get more listings, 5 to 10. And 5 to 10, if you want 20, you can do it. Because we have listings, as you know, all over the world, and we've got quite a few of them. Now, the second, yeah, go ahead.
I want to pause for just a second because we had this conversation yesterday a little bit. I can't remember what the word was that Audrey used, but about the legal part, right? Where it's like these agreements that Global Marketing Agent has, it really does make you or give you the ability to market the property. You're not selling the property. So let's talk about the difference there, because I think that's really important. People say they're co-marketing a listing or they're co-listing a property, and they really don't understand the difference and what that
Sure.
legal term means.
Yeah. So selling, the act of selling is always where the property is located, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marketing, to what we've done is, and again, 17 years ago, we were very fortunate to have an attorney who created all of this documentation that has been
Right.
reviewed, obviously, by all the large brokerages around the world in the validity of them. These agreements were not inexpensive either, for you to know, because this was an attorney at a very high level
Right.
that worked for a very large company as well. And so yeah, the act of selling always happens where the property is located. Here, what we're doing is that the agreements educate the seller wherever the property is located with that listing agent where the property is located. The seller and that agent are giving other agents around the world the ability to
Permission.
market that property. That's right.
Yeah.
And so there are different commission structures involved, sometimes not. But again,
Right.
there are many benefits to it all. And so that's,
And
yeah.
the thing that I think is so cool about this is twofold. Even if the commission structure is not to where, if I co-market your listing that you've got in France, right? And you can't pay me because I'm not going to bring the buyer, and the commission structure is just not there, because there are listings that don't have the ability to have the marketing fee, right? It still brings value to me as an agent in my local market, because all of a sudden it's that differentiation, right? I am now presenting a listing that's in France, and people in my market, in my database, go, what? How? Like, what is she doing? Because now I've got this castle in France that I'm posting on my social medias, and my database is now viewing. So the seller in France is happy because that's X amount more eyeballs on their property that they're trying to sell. And it may happen that I bring the buyer, but even if it doesn't, it validates me and it separates me, which is what we were talking about in the beginning in those listing presentations, right? So it gives me the ability to stand out in my local market as someone who really is a global expert and has access to global properties all over the world, that none of the other agents in my market are doing this. So even if I'm not necessarily getting paid on every single listing that I co-market, it still brings me validity in being an expert in my market and outside of my market. And so people are going to come to me more, because they're going to go, well, if she can sell a house in France or have access to a house in France, what else does she have access to? Right.
Yeah,
and
correct.
that's a far more powerful thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it just happened, yesterday. I mean, an agent posted some listings, and then, her clients were not interested in that listing, but through that posting of that listing, she got an $800,000 client that wanted to buy in Spain. And, she would tell you, if she was on this call, that she would have never had this client if she didn't post that listing that was in France.
Right.
Because again, I tell agents this all the time, and if you're watching this, and I challenge you to do this, it's to go on your social media platform. Facebook and LinkedIn are the best, and just write this language. Out of my friends and family, who owns real estate outside of the jurisdiction you're in right now? So if you live in Dallas, just say outside of Dallas, and you're going to be very surprised and very shocked to see the list of all of your friends and family that are going to come into that's going to say, oh, I own one in Montana. Oh, one in Colorado. Oh, one in Houston. And you're going to be thinking, why did they call me? Because they only see you as that local agent. And so to go back to the point of that is one way for you to get more listings, is to market legally. Again, I want to say this again one more time: legally market other agents or members of this organization, to where now you're going to get more traffic, and then essentially this happened a lot of times to where now with Canva, YouTube, all social media platforms that there is in the world, I mean, I wouldn't say so easy, but it's a lot easier to market properties than it was before social media days, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing.
You guys used to do this with fax machines and.
I mean, even if I had a listing right now that I would want to market, before social media, I had to create either postcards,
Right.
or to create a newsletter, or to go and spend money in Rob Report, DuPont, Unique Homes, whatever it is, for people to see my listing. So that's that's number one, is how to get more listings is through the legality of the agreements, to understand it, and then to be able to market those with different fee structures. The second one are expired listings in your local area. And so I challenge you again to go into your MLS and look at expired listings from all sorts, let's say 300,000 to 50 million, if that happens in your market, to look at and understand that those sellers do want to sell their property. They just don't want to hear the same listing presentation and go through the same pains that they had the last 6 months, year, 2 years. I was talking to an agent yesterday. There was a listing in Vail for $49 million that's been on the market for 2 years, right? So how do you bring unique value? The unique value
do
is
something different. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've got the Castles and Estates magazine, number one, right? So that gives it out to people all over the world. But number two is approach that seller with a different language, not Chinese, not French, marketing language, to say, hey, I know you've been bombarded by agents calling you again since your listing was expired. I would like to show you on how I can co-market your listing to the world with an army of agents who are proactively doing the right things in their market for your listing to be seen everywhere. So that's number two. And number three, you mentioned it briefly, is once you start marketing these listings legally again on your social media, one day you're going to get a call from someone that says, hey, Ashley, my parents own a home in Panama and they want to list it because they want to come back to the US. Can you list that property? And the answer is absolutely yes. You do not need to be licensed in other states, provinces, and countries for you to take listings around the world. And that is what the forms, the agreements, the legalities, the training. And so that's another way again. So you have 3 ways to get 5 to 10 listings a year. And that's what this is all about.
That's incredible because, I mean, it's hard enough to find these listings in just your local market. And so to be able to literally take, and especially for me, like I've been in the real estate industry for 20 years, but I've only been licensed for the last 4 years. And so I used to travel all over the country and I would go into brokerages and I would clean up and hire and train and fix things. So my network, my database is really a lot of other agents. And it's a lot of people all over the country. It's not just here in my local market. And so for me, I've never really been able to tap into that and figure out, okay, how do I leverage this? And now to be able to go to a bunch of other agents and say, hey, I can list properties or we can refer and, I can get more value to you. That is going to be exponentially, important to me. But for any agents, now they get to tap into their database anywhere that people are. And it means that they don't lose clients because now the client doesn't have to go to another agent because their existing agent relationship is not licensed in that other state. And so Absolutely. That I think is a huge thing, is educating your clients that, hey, I'm part of a global network. It does not matter where you own property. I can help you sell that property. And then you tap into the power of GMA and the agreements and everything. And the fact that everything's online, all of the agreements are digital. You can access all of the marketing tools and, literally within seconds, start co-marketing and bringing more value. And I don't know if you're allowed to, maybe you're not, but the $49 million listing in Vail, that was, whose was that?
Oh, it's actually the guitarist of a very famous band here in the world. Not just I don't know if I can say his name because I don't want to,
Okay.
But yeah, he's very, very famous. And but one of the things you've said that and I may get a lot of emails and comments on this one, but it's okay. I was part, and I'm still part of a global brand. I've been through the Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, Remax for many, many years. And even when you are an agent in a global brand, that it just, there's no synergy. Okay.
Right.
Again, some of you may agree, some of you may not, but listen to me and be honest with me. How many referrals, within your global brokerage have you gotten from Europe, Asia,
Right.
Australia, in South America in the last year, in the last 5 years? And if those numbers are crazy, then please email me and I will be wrong.
Prove
but
you
those
wrong.
numbers,
Yep.
yeah, those
Challenge
numbers are,
accepted.
yeah, those numbers are so small, so small. And the reason why is because it doesn't matter if you're part of a global brand, one agent from one country to an agent in another country, we don't work the same. And that's another conversation we'll have at other times. It's just the real estate, the way it is created, the way it's done is completely different. And that's the reason why there's no synergy. And that's why with Global Marketing Agent, we create the bridges, we create the synergy, we create all the agreements. Everything is done for you. Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't matter what brokerage you're a part of or what, where you're affiliated. Anybody can sell or co-market anybody's listings at any brokerage, right? So that's the beautiful thing is there is no, oh, I can only do this if it's in my same brand, right? Everybody gets to work together. And I think that collaboration is key to being able to do more, because everybody has this scarcity mindset, right? Of there's not enough. There's always enough. There's always plenty. So I love that we're able to collaborate with any brand, any brokerage, anywhere in the world. And then I just want to go back to and really hit this nail on the head. Is that seller with that $49 million listing, the famous band player, right? They are able, that agent who's part of GMA is now able to go to that seller and say, hey, let me help you. And they're going to 10x the amount of eyeballs, because now that listing is not just being marketed in that area in Colorado and in that one local MLS. The entire army of GMA agents that are all over the globe, they are now going to co-market that listing. They're going to post it to their socials. They're going to send it to their database. And so you're literally 10xing the opportunity of someone likely coming with an eligible buyer, right? And so now, instead of it sitting there for another 2 years, it's much more likely to get movement and sell, because now we have X amount more, people, army of soldiers of agents trying to sell this listing with the actual listing agent. And that, to the seller, I think is, it's something that no one else can come to the table with and say, I'm going to do this for you, right? I'm going to be able to have not just myself, not just my team locally, but hundreds of other agents in lots of other countries start, marketing this with me, and it doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't have to cost them anything more. So I think that is something that sellers right now, especially right now, are looking for, is that differentiation. And so being able to say, hey, this listing is going to be seen in so many more databases, on so many more websites, on so many more social media platforms, it's going to have way more people walking through, right? Whether it's virtually or in person. And that, I think, is priceless for a seller, right? Especially when you're talking about luxury listings and that price point.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, there's so much information for us to have access to, and there's data now to where it's called real estate migration patterns, to where I have access to, again, if I'm trying to sell a house in Dallas that is above that medium price point, where I need to know where the buyers are coming from. And that's important. And it's the same thing for the south of France or for Vail, Colorado. These people are coming in from an area. Yesterday I learned that, Vail, Colorado, it's only 3% of them are international buyers. And so if you think about that, 3% is very, very small number. Yeah. And so, where are they coming from? They're coming from the entire United States, because Vail, Colorado is a ski playground for the rich and famous, and that's just a fact. And so wherever you are in the world right now, it's doable. Speak a different marketing language, and that's part of the education. But at the end of the day, everything has to be done legal. So many agents try to cut corners and do things that get their brokers in trouble. And so we've always been very, very legal on every aspect of teaching, doing, and so that's very important for you to just don't reinvent the wheel. That's again very important for you to do. So
yeah, well, cool. All right, well, let's do it again next week. Okay, yeah. We'll pick a different one. Awesome.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.